Oh, stop acting light skin.
Welcome everyone to the am I allowed to say this? Sure? Okay. The Light Skinned Opinion Podcast with your host, author, and culture commentator Chris Maddox, blogger and overall asshole Alf954. And there's no way I'm saying this. It's offensive. Sure this is okay? Fine. And our dark-skinned producer, Parrish Thompson. What do we have today, boys? I mean, guys, not boys, because... Oh, fuck it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest live episode of the Light Skin Opinions podcast. You should feel so special because we don't even do these that often no more, you know what I'm saying? But we decided that tonight we wanted to get together. Me and Alf wanted to put our Light Skin Opinions together. Parrish decided to come through and moderate it and make sure we wasn't getting too crazy and outlandish. And we have put together an evening of live streaming for you and your kind that we think you're going to enjoy. I am your host, Christopher Maddox. One time you see me right there, Maddox Media. Follow me on Instagram. I never do that on here. But I guess that's why it's there. You can find me on Instagram. Well, I sell books and stuff. Go to the top right square at Alf954. Alf, say what's up to the people, man.
Sakwase, what's going on, everybody? You already know me. You already know me at Alf954, host of Hangover Time. Check us out on the Locker Room app. Also, 10 a.m. We're going to be there Thursday and Friday this week. And we're always having a good time. And thank y'all for tuning in. We're going to have a good time with this one, man. We're going to go in on some Heat players for you, or just one Heat player. For you Heat fans that like to tune in, we gonna go in after I put on the clown makeup to defend this motherfucker back a few months ago. Now I got to get my shots in on him because I defended my dude, but my dude fucking up. But we going in tonight. Yeah, y'all gonna enjoy this.
We're gonna get to that. We gotta bring our man Parrish Thompson in. Parrish, the Wonder Kid producer. P, what's going on, man? Say what's up to the world, dog.
What up, people? What up, world? Good evening, governors.
Hear the man voice because you might not hear him that much. My dog be getting into the nuts and bolts of the screws and knobs, and we'll go minutes and minutes and minutes without saying nothing. So y'all see my boy P. Listen, let's go ahead and get directly into it. There's a lot of stuff going on in the news this week, man.
But you about to skip over what your part, man. You gotta get what you gotta get.
It's been that long. We haven't done it in so long, man. I've been pushing it.
You've been pushing it, and you know what? You're right, because this will set the theme of the show properly. Let's go to word of the day.
Now it's time for Chris to show his intellectual superiority. Chris, what is our SAT word for the day?
SAT word for the day. I actually just learned this word. Like, I don't even want to put on like I just know this word. You know what I'm saying? But I learned this word.
Shout out to Meyers Leonard, by the way.
I was going to get to his name in a minute, because if you think about his name, right, Meyers Leonard, it sounds to me like, it sounds like he could be, like
part of the tribe. Like, you think he'd be more sensitive.
I don't know why. Maybe that's a bad cultural reference. I think Meyer Lansky. But anyway, we'll get to that. Today's word of the day is methethesiobia. Methethesiobia. And I heard this word in a documentary that I was watching about, actually it was a podcast, The Hidden Brain on NPR anyway. And what this is, the definition of it, is the fear of change. There are people in this world who the idea of things changing completely rouses them to the point where they try to maintain where they are. And I think that's a fitting word of the day, because our first topic tonight is going to be the thumbnail that brought some of you guys here. hello, come through, welcome, meet the cream, meet the queen. We were going to have tea and crumpets, but please don't bring any brownies in here. It's against palace protocol. No brownies. Meghan Markle, big interview with Oprah Winfrey, and there were bombshells dropped in this interviews, but only if you just are super optimistic, like great outlook on life person. I can't see how any of this was shocking. Alf, give me your light skin opinion. When you see the interview, you hear the headlines. What'd you think? What came to mind first?
First of all, I thought your word of the day was that thing them lawyers be advertising for during the
mesothelioma.
Day.
That's what I thought it was too. I didn't want to say nothing. I was trying to play that.
I'm like, this nigga got that shit off a commercial.
Like, where's going with this?
Go ahead.
But not like at first, you know what I'm saying? I didn't watch the interview because there's one thing there's probably a few things that interest me less than the royal family. Like,
I'm so interested.
I feel like it's such an antiquated, just bullshit, structure that like people just hang on to. And every country has that. We have it. Fuck it. Look at the filibuster. But this shit is like centuries years old, and it's so rooted in colonialism and racism. Like it doesn't surprise me that everything about this shit got racist undertones. Like this whole thing was built on the backs of broken countries. So
what you are saying, because you're going to get right to it. That's the tightrope I was talking about walking with this topic. Because if you know that, and I know that, and I'm pretty sure that Parrish knows that, how Meghan Markle ain't know that?
That's when
I saw a thing. This is the tightrope, and this is where we get to be light skin opinions. I saw a post by the commentator, influencer, comedian, actress, whatever, Amanda Seales. And I agreed with the pros. And basically what she was saying was, girl, how you ain't know you was married into the seat of colonialism?
Right.
Like how you didn't know that you were marrying a young man who was the scion of what was at one time the largest imperial force on the globe. Jamaicans, Grenadinians, Canadians in a way, Australians, America, of course. These people got their hands everywhere. India for decades and centuries.
China.
That's why we know Gandhi's, because these people was in India acting up. And you didn't know this, Meghan Markle? Go ahead, bro.
Now go ahead, P. I thought you had something to say.
No, I was just going to say, I think people will try to push American like ideologies and our hopes on different nations and different cultures, and it just don't work like that. We get rude awakenings sometimes.
In Britain, like, go ahead, Pete.
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say I think Meghan Markle, for the most part, for most of her life, she's been like a pretty light skinned girl, and she wasn't a Negro until she married into the royal family, and it's like it's different over there. Yeah, it shook her up. It just hit her different.
Yeah, and that's what's funny, and this thing we can go through a whole range of topics, but one of the things I what I think this sheds a spotlight on is we call this show Light Skin Opinions because we make a lot of fun of colorism, and we understand that it's a real thing, but we also know that at the end of the day, nobody out here, once I leave the crib and once I leave our community, we all black. And Meghan got that, she got that rude awakening once she hit them England streets, and she was part of that royal family. She was no longer the light skinned pretty. She was a black woman. You know what I mean?
Well, this is why.
And I'm not going to take nothing away from Meghan. I don't know if she ever thought she was different or special. I don't know that woman like that. But I think it's a message to all of us that when we sit here and infight in our community, but once we leave, it don't give a fuck if you freckle faced or what. We black.
But that's the lesson. That's the lesson in this. We all remember when you're growing up, right? No matter how fair skinned you are, I'm light skinned, you light skinned, right? One of the warnings that I used to get when leaving the house, my mom would say, especially if I was moving around with some white folks doing something. All right, now you out there around them white folk. Because with the understanding being that some go wrong, cuz, you know what I'm saying? Whatever friendships, whatever alliances, whatever it is you think you got,
They blaming you. That's what my mom used to tell me.
They blaming you.
If you get in trouble with white folks, they blaming you.
And whether that's the right mindset or not, I kind of move like that a little bit. My thing with Meghan Markle, and this is my thing from the beginning, and it's not even so much about Meghan Markle, but it's about the black burden of having to be first in the modern world a lot. Yeah. We saw during the basketball season, it was like the first time there's been an all black referee staff. And it's like, what? In 2021? We still having first? You know what I mean? But she took on what was one of the biggest first in history. Bigger than Jackie Robinson, bigger than, you know what I'm saying, the first black man to go in space, whoever that buddy was, you know. She was going to marry into one of the oldest monarchies on the globe in our known universe. She was marrying into that joint. And I felt like if you're doing that, part of you is doing it like understanding that you're going to be making history. So like Michelle Obama, on the other hand, that lady say, oh, okay, I got to be first lady. All right, let me walk off in that lane. I don't think Meghan ever really looked at it like, okay, I'm about to be the first woman of color to be a princess in the direct like heart of one of the oldest families in the world. And what you see now coming out of it, she ain't recognized it, and I don't think they recognized it. Or
you know what
they did.
I'm very cynical about especially like celebrity relationships and all kinds of shit. I do think there's an element to this that she just fell in love because Harry seemed like a solid. He a charming fellow. He seemed like a solid ass dude. Y'all remember that video where he was sitting there, he was in his like fatigues, and he had an army base, and niggas get to running behind him, and that nigga took his shit off quick and got to run like, fuck all this interview shit. I don't care if I'm a prince. I'm part of this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that reminded me of a Harry now. He reminded me of a black dude right there. You know, like when other people take off running, we take off running too. He was like, let's go. But I think he built a little different than the rest of that family.
But, and I'm gonna put this out there and say, at the time he was a jitterbug, sort of, kind of. You know, Harry got a controversial past as well. We're gonna talk about later this flirtation that white America and apparently white the world has with the Nazis. They secretly love Nazis. Harry remember he was dressed up for Halloween like with a whole Nazi uniform.
I do not remember that.
Man, that was bro. Look it up.
If you told me that shit, I'd have got the picture.
I think Harry.
I just thought about it now because of where our conversation went. But I'm saying, if you remember, after his mother passed, he was the troubled son, and that was one of his little troubled incidents, and he had to go out and make a whole like situation. So Harry, I've seen Harry because you're not interested in the royals, but I've been keeping up with him in taste, especially Diana's kids, and I've seen Harry mature from a wild little youngin' out in the world to what he is now. And so I don't doubt that he loves Meghan Markle. I'm just talking about it from the point of view sometimes of that burden you have as a person of color, where even if you just marrying somebody, it becomes something that will be written in the history books. You feel me? And I felt like poor young girl didn't understand that she was going to have to tote that burden. Because you going off into England and now, I mean, of course, the racism, we've all seen Snatched.
Oh no!
There you go. You found it.
Oh no!
Told you I wasn't lying.
All right. Well, I'm not defending this nigga anymore.
But he was a young man then. Was my point for bringing it up. I've seen him evolve.
We're gonna go into another young man. We're gonna go into another young man fucking up.
But bro,
that's
sir. First of all, let me say this. That is the world's best lawsuit. I might have got hit in the head, in the back, and everything with the TV, but I am never working again. You hear me? When they come and lift that TV, when they lift that TV up off me, the first thing I'm saying is direct deposit. Sir, I will take it.
I feel like we get that picture. I mean, I think me finding that picture just felt like this.
You see how that guy hits the desk, man?
We was all like, "Oh no, oh shit!"
I can't believe you didn't know that. That's what happened when you don't follow the royals. They interested.
One thing I will say, we haven't talked a lot about the interview. I think Oprah did a fantastic.
Were you silent? Were you silent, or were you silenced?
that eyebrow raise that was it for me right there. Silence.
Bro, I'm gonna start dropping these in conversations, sir, ma'am.
Were you silent or silenced? I was like, and then she had the little eyebrow raise. Like, I think Oprah did a masterful job of basically, like we talking about, like, damn, this shit ain't no surprise. This shit ain't nothing new. But I feel like she did a good job of getting to the nitty gritty of it, and kind of just making you understand from like Meghan's point of view, like that this shit was like, it was like a constant just barrage of like.
Well, we 6 minutes in and we haven't talked about the main thing that was in our thumbnail. She says in this interview that there were conversations, and I'm going to say two things here. She says that there were conversations about how dark he would be, right?
Yep.
That's a big deal now because we know the rest of the world understands something that black people have been known for a long time. It's really about the color, man. You know what I'm saying? Because once you get to be a certain color, ain't no denying it. You know what I mean? So they was worried about that. That's the first thing. But then she also caveats that statement earlier in the interview where she starts talking about how it's not necessarily just the family directly, but it's the institution, the people that run the institution that was really like shitting on her. And that's where that's again to that point that I'm making of, yeah, girl, you was marrying into, you seen The Crown on Netflix, girl, you was marrying into an institution. It be young ladies in England who are raised up their whole lives to become eligible and suitable companions for these young dudes, and he came and got you up off the set of Suits on the USA Network. You know what I'm saying? They was gonna come for you, shorty. Like, and it's terrible that they did, but you know,
I wish I was there, man.
That was gonna happen
when he brought her the first time. I was like, "You bringing who into the family? Who?"
They were like,
Suits
from Suits. Oh, they were like, first of all, they were probably like, she's American.
She's USA Network.
You couldn't even get nobody from a premium network?
The channel where they show wrestling?
Is she a guest on Raw? Like, who is this woman? And then
a guest on Raw. What?
And then they he showed her the picture the first time. They were like, is she ethnic? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
is she ethnic? But that was what Parrish's point was. And then we're going to transition here. Parrish's point going into this was, she has been able to live in America in that kind of weird and awkward place for biracial people sometimes, where depending on your skin color, you can either pass in one community and be ostracized by another. You know, I have mixed friends who talk about that struggle all the time. You're never black enough, you're never white enough. And I see how that struggle that she had here, you might think, okay, I'm going to go abroad. I'm going to marry into another situation. This is an enlightened man. But you didn't just marry that man. You married that whole institution. And if you do that, you got to go in there kind of like a trailblazing ass. You know what I'm saying? You got to be a G about it. And I don't know who is going to be.
You do got to be ready to follow some rules, though. Like that's just part of it, man. If you're going to be a royal,
unless if she's saying like the rules are just naturally like against you and based in racism and stuff, then
see that there was two sides to that, and we'll get off this topic. But they were like what Paris was saying. There was a part of it where there was like she had to learn to curtsy before the queen. Like you didn't marry into the Johnsons down the street. You married into the royal family. Like there are going to be fucking things you got to do. Like you got to one thing I didn't understand. Like Harry, you didn't prepare her for this shit. We're like, we gonna meet my grandmother today, bitch. Your grandmother, the queen. It ain't like
Harry was like, I'm the second.
You gotta be
never
preparing her. That's like a months-long preparation.
Yeah,
you know
Harry was second in line, man. Harry was like, I ain't never gonna be king, man. I'm just saying.
And he thought, and I think maybe she thought that too. Maybe she figured, I'm marrying the little brother.
But you still got to meet the queen. Like I prepared my girl for weeks to meet my Haitian ass family. Like, listen, we're gonna go over here for Easter. My great aunt, she be talking shit. Like I just went down the whole line. Like you got to prepare people. Like don't be bringing people into some situations blindsided. Like I think that was fucked up on Harry's end, in my opinion. And then at the same time, like she also needed to kind of know, like this is a different situation than most situations.
I'll say this about Harry. Harry is finding himself in a place that you have to be willing to go to when you're in a serious relationship. That place where you have to walk with somebody while they going through major situations like that.
Beef with your family. He didn't chose.
You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, that man is in Los Angeles, a whole ocean in a country away from everything he was raised with. You feel me? So, I mean, he's stepping into props, you got to do that. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna give him props. And someone else who stepped into something. Parrish, I think you guys. So we're gonna make a quick transition here, and we're gonna bring in our guest.
Well, let me do the transition real quick.
Go ahead.
Y'all saw the picture that Alf put up. Alf, put the picture up again. Put it up real quick.
Go ahead,
Harry.
man.
Put up the picture of Harry. My bad. Damn. Y'all see Harry, right? You see the little Nazi thing. He's like, oh, it's a joke. There is something in white culture that we are not familiar with. We do not understand. It's this weird kind of love-hate relationship that white culture seems to have with the Nazi party. We're going to talk about your boy Meyers Leonard, man. Meyers.
Let's go, baby.
Fucking cowards. Don't fucking snipe me, you fucking bitch. I just dropped that on my head. That didn't even go to fucking... anyways.
He just kept going, dog.
You hear that nervous laughter from the other guy on the stream?
Yeah, like...
He's like, you know, in his head, it's like, oh, your career is fucked. Like, your career is dead ass. So,
Alf, give us the story, man. Give us the story.
Meyers Leonard, center for the Miami Heat, he's out with a shoulder injury or some shit. He made headlines last year when he refused to kneel for the anthem during the playoff bubble, when the whole George Floyd thing was popping off. You know, players were wearing all kinds of stuff on the back of their jerseys. I believe he had equality on his jersey. He said it was about his brother.
He was standing like this, hand on one person, another hand on another.
Yeah, and they, you know, and his teammates put their arms around him, like they embraced him. And I came out here with a clown suit on defending this man because he made it really about like, oh, this is about my brother. And I'm like, listen, everybody needs to make their own choices. Yeah. And blah blah blah. I ain't gonna go back into the fucking my because I don't feel like doing it anymore. Because after this shit, like and a lot of people have been saying, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. All right. Exactly. And we should have believed who Meyers was back then. And Meyers came out with an apology saying that he didn't know the meaning of that word. And we bleeped out the word. We're not going to repeat that fucking word because, listen, we are not in a position to say that word. And we talked about this a little bit before the show. And we're actually going to bring on two members of the media, two Jewish members of the media who are going to kind of help us parse this and parse that word and kind of like the impact, the way, because I feel like for them, it's kind of how we feel sometimes when we hear the N-word with that hard ER at the end coming from outside of our own community. I think
the fact is that the N-word gets a lot of the publicity, but the other fact is that there are so many slurs. Like every community can point to a word, a phrase, a slur that is harmful to them. And so we talk about the N-word a lot, and I think there are a lot of slurs that fly under the radar as if they are not as harmful. And so then that's part of the reason why you end up with a guy who should know better, saying something that, I mean, anybody who's been alive since 1995, maybe, like you gotta know, you have to know that, you know what I mean? But there's this casualness about it that, you know, we only concerned about the N-word. Everything else, you can kind of say a lot of stuff on the sneak when you're not live streaming. Go ahead.
You got to open that up a little bit more too. 95, I think at least, man. Like that's pretty old.
I don't know. I personally,
let's introduce our guests. I'm sorry, we have guests here.
And I'm leading to, and I want to ask them because I grew up in Coral Springs. I grew up around a lot of Jewish. I had a lot of Jewish friends. I've always said I've been to more bar mitzvahs than some rabbis. Like I maybe I was so immersed in that culture that I knew that word, but I thought like everyone knows that word. And for you to say that word, you have to know what it means. It ain't a word that has any other connotation or other meaning in the English language. So we're going to bring in Alejandro Solana. I said Alexander. Alejandro Solana from Hangover Time, Miami Heat Beat, and also $7.90 the ticket and $5.60 the Joe. Is it still called the Joe, Solana?
I hope so. You've been saying it.
Can you hear me?
Wait, you broke up like halfway through that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Were you introducing me? I heard you mispronounce my name. I heard you fuck up my name, and then everything else after that went to shit. Yeah.
I was saying where you're from, so I was just saying thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
And also we got Genna on the mark from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. And I want to ask you guys about that word, and we'll start with you, Solana. Kind of, is it possible to say that word and not know what it means? Did that apology do anything for you?
Well, first, I didn't know Prince Harry dressed up as a Nazi, so thank you guys for for getting me effed up with that. That was
LSO breaking news, baby.
Now I'll say it again. That was when he was younger. He was going through a wild phase.
Yeah.
You know, Harry had a very wild phase, so I want to give him some credit and say he's matured. But it's in his Rolodex. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was interesting. No, I do think the weirdest part about all of this is Meyers coming out and saying, "I didn't know what the word meant." And okay, let's say he didn't. Right? Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, which we shouldn't. We shouldn't. I want to preface everything I'm saying by saying we shouldn't give him the benefit of the doubt. But he doesn't know what that means. He clearly knows it's a slur. Maybe he doesn't know what exactly he's saying. What's most bothersome to me, and I'm a young guy, I play video games, is he said that word knowing it's a slur. Again, benefit of the doubt, he doesn't know what it means, but that means he's hearing that all the time. And he's never once stopped to think and say, what does that mean? Why are you guys saying that? Do a little more. I don't know if research is the right, but just questioning a word that you're hearing so often, because and I know this is getting said a lot, and there's semantics in play here as well, how he says it, the way he says it, but at the end of the day, this dude said a word he's comfortable saying on a live stream. He didn't second guess it, and that is what's most bothersome to me. That's what made me feel uncomfortable about the whole thing, where he says a word clearly he's comfortable saying, and then he's like, "Oh, I didn't know what it meant." Like, all right,
and then he didn't even react. Like, he said it, and you know how you might let something slip and be like, "Oh, my bad,"
Right.
"Oh, yeah, I'm sorry." Said it, and hey, yeah. So on to the next battle in this simulated war.
Even if you didn't know what it means, it's kind of when you first start cursing, you always learn like what are the set off words to insult other people. And there's always, you know the words to set off, black people, Italian people, Spanish people. That's just what it is. Like you're not supposed to say them, but you learn them. It's the real.
Parents give you the rules of cussing people out when you first start cussing.
Ain't that the truth though? You choose your words. You learn how to hurt people with your words. It's the first thing you do. And then you learn how to say.
What's your opinion on all of this?
All right. So we're going to disagree here for a minute. But I'm not going to sit here and judge his apology. He apologized. I think everyone F's up. And you got to give them that opportunity to right whatever wrong they do. Right? I think we can all agree on that. I want to believe that he probably knew, like you said, right? He heard the word. He had to know the word to say the word. I think he saw it not as an offensive attack, more as a curse word, and not as violent towards a group of people as it really is. And I think that's where the problem is first of all, you shouldn't say a word that you don't know what it means to begin with, right? Like nobody should. But I think that, and here's the difference with, you guys brought up the N-word and you guys hearing it. Nobody says that word, the K word.
Nobody does.
Nobody says it.
Nobody does.
Listen, I went to Jewish day school until I was 12 years old. I had 2.5 hours of Hebrew every day of my life until I was 12 years old. I did not know what that word. It's not like parents
are sitting around like, hey,
and say, this is a word, don't say it. It's almost as if it doesn't exist because people don't talk about it. And so if that goes on in our own cultures, that has to open the door for conversation to other cultures, because Meyers isn't Jewish. He's from a small, very white town, right? So you have to also be cognizant of that. And listen, I was red when I heard that. I was fuming, and then I just saw more people sharing it and more people sharing it. So I'm not giving him a pass, but what I'm saying is, it's even though it's as hurtful and as offensive as other words, it's a very different situation, because I can tell you, I've never heard my parents say that.
No,
but I'm sure you've heard your parents say the N-word and say, don't say this, or say, I'm sure you've heard it, right? Like, we hear it in rap songs. So it's a very different extreme. And I think probably because of where it comes from, and it's associated with the Holocaust and World War II and all of that, people just kind of like shut that door. But that's really where we're doing we're really in the wrong for doing that, because then we're not giving people the opportunity to understand. And I think in all of this conversation, whether it's Jews, it's blacks, the education is the most important thing.
But that's where you said something earlier that to me was the thing about that particular word, because you are right. Nobody says it. Nobody says it in polite company. Nobody says it in impolite company. Right. You never hear a fight about to go down and somebody yells out, "Yo, you!" You never hear that.
No.
So, and that leads me to be like, so, because he did use it like a cuss word, but then I'm like, so who are you cussing with? Like, who are your cussing partners?
Or where did he learn it from? Who was it used in his house, and he thought it was this equivalent of using?
Well, and Genna, I don't want to argue with you about this, because I feel like you're coming from.
We love talking.
We could debate all day, but my problem is this: we're talking about a 29-year-old man. We're not talking about it like we're treating this motherfucker like he's a child. He's not a fucking child. He's a 29-year-old man, and he motherfucking knows where he heard that word. He knows what the fuck it means. Like, let's stop with the stop. This whole benefit of the doubt in 2021, when you can simply Google any fucking thing on earth. It's not like this motherfucker had to go to an encyclopedia and look up the K's in the Britannica. Like, no, he can Google that shit. If he was like, who said that word and why? Like 3 years ago when he was
quite honestly,
I don't even know.
That is a word used in the most violent, most disgusting circles of human beings. And if that circle of people exists on the internet and on Twitch, he knows what these motherfuckers are saying. He knows where that come from. He knows the intent of that word. Like, I understand wanting to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I'm telling you right now, if he unleashed nigger in the middle of a fucking Twitch session, I'm canceling his ass immediately. And I'm not going to say maybe he didn't know that word. No, he knows it.
Let's let Alex go right quick. Go ahead, Alex. You said you had something you wanted to say. Go ahead, Alex.
No, Genna, go ahead. She's boiling. Go ahead.
No, I'm not boiling at all. I'm just that's how I talk. I'm not mad at all. Alf and I love each other. We always disagree. But there's a lot of people in my own culture who know the word is offensive or know the word is bad, right? Like, if your mom tells you don't say this word, it's a bad word, you think it's probably just a curse word. You don't think it's an offensive curse word. So if this is something that obviously he's heard it in the past, right? You don't just make a word come out of your mouth that you've never heard before or you've never said before. But if he's said it before and no one's ever stopped him and no one's ever said to him, yo, what are you doing? I agree. At 29 years old, when you're an NBA player, you should know what is coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
1000%. But I'm also not a juror here to sit here and say, his apology. Listen, he owned that that's not an excuse, right? He took the apology that step further and said, I didn't know what the word means, but that's not an excuse.
I hate when people make an excuse and then say it's not an excuse. Like, I hate that.
Go ahead, Alex. Go ahead, Alex.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I kind of get what Genna's saying. Look, I'll give you an example. I grew up in South Florida. I'm Jewish. I don't have many Jewish friends. Like, my roommate who just walked through, he's Jewish, and he and I were talking about it last night. We're like, bro, we've never heard anybody say that. And I've heard it like every now and then because I do play video games. So that's where I've heard it from. So I know this idea of, oh, where did Meyers hear it from? That's where I disagree with you, Genna. I know where Meyers heard this fucking word from.
From racist.
It's right. No, and really, like that's what it is. And you go on a Call of Duty,
which is 14-year-olds, not so much, right? They're 14-year-olds who are just talking shit.
And this 30-year-old went ahead.
I mean, you could say they're 14-year-olds. I mean,
but they heard it from their 50-year-old pops, though. They heard it. The 14-year-olds, you can keep doing the etymology back as far as you want to go. But somebody heard it from somebody who feels a way.
But we want to say, 14-year-olds. And for the most part, you're right. But I was 14 10 years ago when I was hearing these words. Now all these people who heard those words are 26 like me, or they're 29 like Meyers Leonard. Like, the gaming community isn't just 14-year-old kids. Go right now on Warzone, enter a public game chat, and all you're going to hear is the N-word. Right. You're going to hear the F word. Like, you're going to hear slurs.
But to Al's point, and I agree with you, but you're 29. You're supposed to know better. Like, you just
for sure.
Myers, and you have a profile. You're not nobody.
And not only that,
person.
Not only that, your Meyers Leonard kind of just did something controversial, and he does carry himself in. I this is gonna sound bad. He does carry himself in the holier than thou. Presence, and here's why. It's not. It wasn't. And Alf, I know you don't want to rehash this, but it wasn't the fact that he stood for the national anthem. And I was with you when you supported him in the summer. I thought, look, everybody makes their own decisions, whatever. But the way he came off there was, I know right from wrong. I support the cause, but this is why I'm standing. And we were fine. Okay, fine. He's shown us nothing but him being an ally, him and his wife. And then all of a sudden, he's just shouting a slur. That's, to me, what gets to me, where it's like, hold on a second. You were pretending to be an ally of the cause, but then you're so willing to just use a slur.
So how much canceling does he deserve? How much canceling does he deserve?
But that's part of where I wanted to go with it is, so that's Meyers Leonard, right? So we could talk about Meyers Leonard all day. But the better conversation, I think, is the bigger conversation. The use of that, somebody put it in the chat here, and it was like, yo, it's on South Park all the time. I'm like, what? I can't even tell you how I learned it, but I feel it in my bones when it said, this is wrong. I've heard it in movies. I've heard it in all of that. But the bigger conversation is kind of like the political correctness conversation. People say, oh my gosh, we shouldn't be politically correct. But here, what we see today, some things you need to be politically correct about. Like, there's nothing wrong with having a series of maybe words or whatever. Television used to have it with like the 7 words you couldn't say on TV or whatever, or the 10 words. Mm-hmm. Look, we just can't go there. And then everybody just needs to be okay with it. You can't, that's how we started this. Like, every group has something that, you're going to cut them to the core with that. Every group has that.
But you know what? It's not
everybody should just stay away from it. And if people don't know it, then we need to broadcast it as part of our culture. Hey, look, here in the United States of America, this is shit we don't say. You don't walk up to this guy and say this. You don't go to this woman and say that. You just don't say it. You know what I mean? And I understand don't tell me I'm first.
But to me, it's not just political correctness, right? It's civility, right? It's kind of like you were saying, it's being civil. And this kind of the question I want to ask Genna and Alex about is like, the idea of civility, I feel like, gets lost in some of these platforms, right? And let's go beyond Meyers Leonard. Let's go to the fact that on a live stream on Twitch or on any of these, we're on Twitch right now, or Xbox Live, or any of these gaming communities, these words are okay, and it's almost like it's funny, and it's the more outlandish you are, the better. Like, it's people's intent to conflict, harm, and offend. And like at that, and then you want to cry about snowflakes and political correctness and getting canceled. But some of it is just like, be fucking civil. Like, what is it about that? And I don't want to just call out the gaming community, but that's where we are right now in this conversation.
We no longer agree on civility. That's what I'm suggesting. We basically need to give people
I agree with Alf 100% on that. I think the fact that it's okay to do it on these platforms gives people a safe space to have the green light and feel like they're fine and feel like they're not offending anybody. You know, I mean, if that video wasn't streaming and no one saw it, well, then we'll say it again tomorrow. So,
and it happens every day on those streams.
Well, I'm not on those streams.
But it does. My nephew plays all those games, and one day he's playing them without his head thing on. And I'm like, who are you in here talking to? People was calling him all type of. And I'm like, what is going on? No. We're disabling the chat feature or whatever this is. I felt like I was 80 years old. Give me these headphones, you. But that's what's going on. And it's like, I don't understand where we got to a point where any of this stuff became like, there's so many holes in our civility. Nobody can agree on it. That it's becoming, you can't trust people to just know anymore. Correct. You can't trust people to just be like, yo, you should just know better. You know, I'm like that.
I disagree with you on that. They all know better. They all know better. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's not okay to not know in 2020.
No, it's not. It's definitely not.
They do, and you have the people like today on the text line when I get on the show. The first text is like, "Oh, what's the big deal about the K word? Stop being soft," right? Like, you have these people who genuinely want to believe, like, "Oh, First Amendment," which we know is a dumbass argument. I can say whatever I want. You, if you want to be offended, you can be offended. And the reality is, that's just people wanting to use slurs and say things about other people and not want the repercussions that come with them. And I don't think Meyers Leonard falls into that category, by the way, but just more to Alf's point, where like, that's this culture that's been created on these public platforms, which is who can say the most fucked up thing that's going to get the best reaction out of people. And there is that culture of people, and you know, you see it all the time where that's their intent, and they probably don't have a bad bone in their body. They just think it's funny. And
we say it's like
I agree with Alex on that. Sorry to cut you off, but I think that people, like, we talk about the N-word and how offensive it is all the time, right? But I think with other lesser discussed offenses, people just think it's funny. And what people don't get is there's a fine line between funny and offensive, and that's why I agree. You need to know what you're saying. I'm not giving him the pass for that. But I do believe that he did not know what it was, which is dumb on his part, and it shows how careless he really is.
So how much punishment does he really deserve? Real quick, how much punishment does he deserve? Because I think we all agree that he wasn't really trying to be malicious. He wasn't spewing hate.
Yeah, he didn't scream, "I hate Jews," right? He didn't scream anything like attacking in that sense.
So does it need to be cut? Does it need to be cut and get his contract out of the NBA, or can
no. What I would say, if that Jewish owner decides to cut him, I ain't blaming him 1 second.
No,
I'm like, you ain't gonna take these checks and start using. Like, imagine if one of my employees were going around saying "nigga this, nigga that." You what? You ain't gonna keep getting these checks off me. No, sir.
No,
listen,
I couldn't do it with good conscience. Not at all.
I agree. I think Mickey Arison can do whatever he wants, right? The NBA is going to do whatever they want because they have to set an example. You can't sell shirts about equality and then let this go. But I also think there is a huge opportunity for education here that can really be capitalized on.
Well, let me say this. I'm sorry not to cut you, but because we're going to transition in a second. Let's talk about Julian Edelman's letter, because I think that's where I was going.
That's where I was going. The way Julian Edelman addressed this today, it's the same way Ray Allen addressed the Deshaun Jackson stuff over the summer. That is the appropriate approach, and that you have to give him the opportunity to right the wrong. And I think that starts with education. And everything Julian Edelman said is spot on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Julian Edelman, this is like maybe the because there has been, I think we have to say this, because we keep talking about like it's maybe just the gaming community's platforms. There's been a rise in anti-Semitism in this country for a while. There have been several temples, you know, there's been problems for a minute. So, you know, this is all coming to like on the tail of that. I listened to this podcast, How I Built This, right? Every tech startup that comes on that podcast, they get to a point where they start blowing up, people start using their platform, and the first thing they get blindsided by is people on their platforms talking all type of foolishness. And they're always like, we couldn't foresee it. And they got to hire lawyers and create those terms of agreement that everybody signs and yada, yada, yada. But I say that to say the problem is deeper in the country than just some guys on video games talking some shit or Meyers Leonard hanging in poor company, picking up words and spewing them out. There's something deeper going on because Meyers Leonard's whole story is part of like these attacks on temples in New York. I can't remember the name of the place exactly, but there's been shit happening in the country. Like, you know, read the room, cuz. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, my thing is, like, I'm no offense to Julian Edelman or anybody. I hate that the aggrieved party, and Tiffany put this in, Tiffany Meeks put this in the chat. I hate that the aggrieved party always has to, people always look at, well, why don't you take this opportunity to educate? No, motherfucker. If I feel like it, if I got time today, I'll do it.
Julian Edelman has taken that amongst himself, though. He's done.
Yeah,
this
but
is
that's
like
what I'm saying. He got time today. But it's not on him. It's not his responsibility. It's you run up out here and say some stupid shit. There needs to be consequences for your actions. And if those consequences are you losing your fucking job, because I can't go into my job, use that word, my boss is Jewish. And if I said that word off in the middle of my job, you know what's going to happen? I am going to get fired. And you know what I'm going to go do after that? I'm going to go educate my motherfucking self to make sure I don't say that bullshit again. All right, that's
why did I get fired today?
Yeah, I ain't gonna be like cancel culture is fucked up. No, nigga, you out here fucking up at your
let's
job.
Do this, and then we're gonna go from there. We're gonna transition into the stimulus checks, and we're gonna let our guests go and wash themselves off after being on our show with us for a little bit.
Real quick, real quick. Like, I get it. Why you don't like what Julian Edelman's saying? And yeah,
no. I don't have a problem with you. I have a problem with other people saying that. Other people, non-Jewish people, saying, "Well, why don't you use this as a time to educate Myers?" No, don't tell Jewish people what to do with their grief and with their concerns. If Julian Edelman decides that I want to go have a dinner with this man and talk to him, that's fine. But I just don't like anybody else. Like it would, like if I was like Jewish people, you guys, Alex, why don't you educate Myers? That ain't my job to tell you what the fuck to do with your damn time.
Yeah, but if you don't use this opportunity to educate, then okay, fine. Meyers Leonard doesn't play again in the NBA. Dude's already made $50+ million. He goes somewhere. We never hear from him again. And what really, like, what's the positive of that? We never hear from Myers again. We don't see him play basketball. Okay, fine.
Talk that shit, lose your job is the message.
And there's a lot of Jewish people that do feel that way, by the way. Mm-hmm. F Myers, that's it. Throwing the key out. Never want to hear from this guy again. And that's fine. If that's the way that you deal with this, you don't know people's trauma, right? If that's the way you want to deal with it, I'm not going to judge you for it.
You know what I'm hearing in our conversation here?
I prefer the Julian Edelman route, which is
I choose violence.
Most people don't know about like the Jewish heritage. They don't realize that it's actually offensive to say something like
where
that.
Alpha's coming from. And we so rarely get it on this show because it's just the three of us. Is the difference is in this American culture, because what Alpha is speaking from is what we have come to expect in this country, which is you really get one, maybe two shots. People say, oh, in America, we give you chances, child boo. In the real world, you get maybe one or two shots. So it feels unfair that, you know, celebrities in general, not just Meyers Leonard, but people who are in the public eye get to make these big, giant missteps. And then they get like, okay, but we get to, you know what I mean? We're down here on the trouble level, like you were saying at your job. That's why I feel you on that. Down here on the daily toil level, you know what I'm saying? We walk such a tighter line in terms of how much leeway we have to just say shit or just, you know, when I go on my job, I can't go to talking bad about homosexuals or lesbians or whoever and using terms to describe those groups. Why? Because you never know who is that and what, you know what I mean? Like, so I feel like when you're just us, we have to walk such a tighter line, apparently, than people who are in the public eye. And I feel like that should be reversed. And maybe that's where the disconnect is in terms of should we teach them versus hell no, y'all wouldn't teach me. You know what I'm saying?
I would say personally, as an aggrieved party, I'm tired. I'm tired during George Floyd, people reaching out to me saying, what can I do better? Bitch, I don't know. Google it. Leave me the fuck alone. I'm over here pissed.
you've also had way more trauma. I will say that.
I don't agree, and I will say this. No, then Jenna, I don't know about your personal life, but I would say that the Jewish people go through. I know I'm saying Jewish people have gone through some shit.
Yes,
y'all should be tired as fuck.
Yes, and
I would think.
Unfortunately, a lot of that is not as openly discussed as what you guys have gone through, and that's why I say, and I agree with Alex in the sense where, okay, so if Meyers gets canned and he never plays basketball again, fine.
What good was it?
But what good does that do? Because then it doesn't prevent the next incident from happening, whether it's against Jewish people, Black people, Italians, or gays. You have to prevent this ignorant.
No, he's saying the next person, they'll just know off rip they're going to lose their job if they let that word.
My question is this: if Meyers loses his job over this, when do you think the next time a celebrity is going to go out there and say that word?
It will.
Not that word, but they'll
not
say
that word.
But educating Meyers, Julian Edelman sitting down with Meyers Leonard, while it may educate Meyers, is not going to stop anything from happening again.
Well, low key, you're not going to stop. We've all learned this lesson. We're talking about trauma.
I'm about to say, go on Twitch right now.
Anything-
They're saying that right now.
Yeah.
Changing anything in the United States of America, boy, you in for a centuries-long slug. You know what I'm saying? Like, the culture is young, the youngest country on the planet, but it is well-rooted and deep. You feel me? That's why I've been trying to take the conversation kind of, because like Meyers is Meyers, but there's a bigger thing going on that, if we can't depend on on people to just know and be empathetic and whatever, sometimes maybe you do need, like how TV had, here's a list of words. I work in the school systems. Maybe when they get to be around 7th grade, they say, hey, look, here's a bunch of stuff you can't say, kid. You know why you can't say it? You can't say this because these people went through this and this word harkens to that time. Or you can't say this because outright they just don't like it, B. You know what I'm saying? We're not here to debate it. Here's a standard list, and we might have to add to it over time. Because you can't, we're living in a world now, sadly, where there is no neighborly like, oh, hey, nobody says it. So for you to say it, you have to know some of the context.
I also want to stop with the nobody says it because people are saying it. Solana just told you. And the thing is, and one of the things I will agree with Genna on is that, and I'm going to let you have the last word on this subject, Genna, is that I do think that this has served as an education. Whether he sits down with Julian Edelman, whether he gets cut, I think a lot of people now are aware of that word and they Googled it and now know the history of that word. And I think there's less of a chance of this happening again. It kind of reminds me of the Tim Hardaway thing. And probably the reason he's still not in the Hall of Fame is when he went on the radio talking about how much he hates gay people. He hates them.
See, now that's because that's the point that I was making earlier. Ain't nobody go to Tim Hardaway and say,
but Tim Hardaway did the work. And he did a lot,
but nobody went to Tim Hardaway and said, "Hey,
no, actually, no." And I will tell you a lot. And I remember the time a lot of LGBTQ organizations reached out to Tim Hardaway, partnered with him. But like I'm saying, it's not nobody needed to put that on them. They decided to go out and do it themselves. And he learned, and they learned together. And he is now an advocate for gay rights. So something good can come of it. But what I'm saying is, I do agree with Genna, and I'm gonna let you have the last word on this whole thing. That there can be positives that come from what happened.
There can be, and first of all, thanks for agreeing with me. That's a first. But I think a lot of what Judaism is about, I mean, we spend 10 days of the year repenting for forgiveness for our own wrongs and making that right? From Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, we spend 10 days basically asking anyone and everyone to forgive us for anything we might have done wrong. So when someone like Julian Edelman will come out and say, listen, let's sit down. Listen, Meyers Leonard, if you're listening, come to my house. We will sit down and we will talk through this and hopefully right this wrong for you. 100%, that was right where my head went too, because so much of our religion preaches forgiveness. And I think that's where that comes from us. But on a side note, when it's a word that's being used as opposed to, I don't necessarily feel threatened, by a mass group of other people because one person used the word. So if one person uses the word, or a platform like Twitch allows a bunch of people to use the word, look at what we went through in America on January 6th with all these people saying all these things on all these platforms nobody knew about until they started reading it, right? So maybe it's a bigger education of going to these platforms and saying, you have to be the ones to prevent these things from happening. You can't allow this to go on when people are on here, even if they're saying it in a joking manner, because someone's going to be offended. It's going to hurt. And it creates these traumas and these pains that really need to not be encouraged in our society, because there's enough of that.
There's more than enough.
And it's not just the offense. It's not just the offense. And I'll agree with Genna. It's the ignorance spreads, right? And that's one of those things where when people try to have, talk to social media companies and these different platforms and tell them to monitor and control their shit, it's not just about the fact that, you're shutting down free speech. It's you're stopping the spread of hate and disinformation. So let's say Meyers did just learn that word on Twitch. That's a problem. The fact that that's where he's going to learn that shit.
That's a very good problem.
But thank you guys for showing. Thank you guys for coming through.
Yes, thank you, Alex. Thank you, Genna. We appreciate it. Y'all helped us have a way more well-rounded conversation than we probably would have had otherwise. So we appreciate y'all. I'm guessing those are your social tags that are next to your names there.
You guys aren't gonna chug some Manischewitz or some shit while
you're
really.
We should toast with them or something.
But I'll tell you what, that is one of my favorite Lauryn Hill lines. We be getting fine sipping Manischewitz wine. I love that line. That's one, and I was like, I go to the store sometimes. I look at Manischewitz. I'm like, I know what that is.
My dad drinks that shit. He grew up in Brooklyn.
People do like it's regular. I feel like it's supposed to be more special than just, hey, let me go grab some. But anyway,
I don't know. Is it Manischewitz like a special occasion wine?
It's kosher wine.
Yeah,
right?
It's not, but it's not a special occasion. You can have that.
Yeah, you could have that. You could have that whenever. I never have that because
not even at your bar mitzvah. They give it to you at your bar mitzvah. You're supposed to take a sip.
In Miami, they give you whatever you want at a bar mitzvah. Yeah.
It's like that's not how our version of it goes down. But I went to Nova, so I grew up around. I grew up with potato latkes and playing dreidel on the holiday break and all of that. Nova is like, yo, you gonna know this shit. Maybe that's how I know it, because I went to Nova. I don't know. But anyway, we thank y'all for coming on. We appreciate you.
All right, guys.
Alf, we got a video for this next segment.
All right, guys.
Appreciate y'all.
Alf, I don't even know what the next segment is. You just put me on the spot.
Oh, my bad. We going STEM checks real quick.
I don't have a video for STEM checks.
All right, STEM checks this week. They passed the STEM check bill.
Parrish, you got a banner or something?
I do got a banner for STEM checks.
Hey, got a banner. Let's put it up.
There we go.
Yeah, hey, one time for that. Now, things we wanted to talk about. We want to try to move quickly through this. Things that are quietly, I think, moving in the direction of being very, very, very progressive. Number one being the increase in the earned income tax credit for children.
Yep.
Pretty decent increase, too. Like, from $2,000 to $3,000 in some cases, $3,600. That's a significant amount of money, and it can be paid out in installments as opposed to one big lump sum.
Yeah, I think that, and what we want to do is talk about the stimulus bill. There's $1.9 trillion stimulus bill that's going to get signed on Friday. And listen, there's a lot in the bill. Like Parrish has put up that the relief bill is most significant legislation for Black farmers since the Civil Rights Act. $5 billion will go to farmers of color who've lost 90% of their land over the past century due to systemic discrimination and a cycle of debt. Like there's a lot in this bill that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. All people want to focus on is on the $1,400 stimulus check.
Yeah.
And a lot of progressives are mad because they promised $2,000. Now they parsed it with the semantics of, oh, y'all got $600, $1,400 makes $2,000. Listen, I'm not gonna get into that argument. I always thought they were gonna come in and give you the rest of the $2,000, and then other people. There are arguments to be made, but I do think we are missing the forest for the trees when it comes to this package. I think there's a lot of really good stuff in it.
So let's move to something, because what you said there is all very important. A lot of that stuff. Now today, on the House floor, there was a back and forth. A representative from Ohio, I believe it is, gets up and he's talking about the earned income tax credit increase. And he says, I'm going to paraphrase him very poorly. He basically says, well, look, Black Lives Matter played a big deal in this election. And he implies kind of like that is a kickback to Black Lives Matter because, you know, black people.
Well, he also said that we know that we know that blacks don't respect the family structure.
Yes. And then my girl, who was the impeachment manager, she got up and she handled her business with it. And that's part of what I think is part of it. But the last conversation we just were having, you know, yeah, show the merch, man.
We'll talk about it a little more.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But, you know, there's this thing going on in America. We just acting like it's brand new, where people feel a way about a lot of stuff, man. And what that guy said is part of a stereotype that existed for a very long time. But all of that to couch this statement here, no Republicans voted for it.
Yes.
None. And I'm finding it. I saw a piece on CNN where they were going around talking to Republicans and Republican business owners who, and they are still, some of them at least, trying to support Trump, but then also be like, yeah, but I needed this stimulus.
I need that check.
I need this. You know, there's a restaurant buddy who was like, he needed 2 PPP loans to keep his restaurant going, but he's still like a diehard. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying not so much that they support Trump, but the representatives who say they represent that man is up there voting no, because we so polarized right now politically that I'm starting to think kind of like how you think, Alf. You know how a long time you be going. I'm like, man, in this 1 year, Democrats need to get together and put and vote into law whatever they can get done as fast as possible.
Yep.
If it takes party line votes from here until the midterm elections, then party line it up, nigga. What's that shit where you be in the Congo line it up?
The Congo line. Well, I look at it like this, you know. Part of the problem is it don't matter what the bill is. It doesn't matter what the legislation is. It doesn't matter how much it benefits their constituents. These motherfuckers are about no progress at all. Like if it, you know, they don't want Biden to have any wins. They don't want Democrats to have any wins. They don't want poor people to have money. Like they just legit, somehow they just think it's bad for business. And it probably is bad for some business. You know what I mean?
Did you see the clip of the state politician buddy standing up there? He's like, yo, we say pensions, y'all screaming mad. We say raise the minimum wage, y'all screaming mad. We say let them organize as unions, y'all screaming mad. But if we was in here talking about a tax cut, y'all will be lined up. You know what I'm saying? And that's the dichotomy that I'm like, I don't see how anybody can't see that.
And I want to know from what y'all opinion is, like, what is the political win of denying people $1,400 checks, of denying people $15 an hour minimum wage, like of denying earned income tax credits for children? Like, what is the political win there? Is it just that your donors who would like that money and tax cuts instead of legislation to help the middle class and the poor, and that they will not vote for, you know, they will not contribute next time? Like, what is the political win there? Because they just lost the Senate because they didn't do nothing.
That's only part of it. That's only part of it, and that's a big part of it. But
money is the other part.
Even more so than the money. I'm going esoteric with the shit. They are fighting for the survival of an ideology, because at this point in time, that's really all it's about. The shit in Texas was all about ideology, an ideological reason why we trying to run our own power grid down here. Shit fell apart. They trying to maintain an ideology. When you look at all of this, hey, look, like the whole shit about not giving people money, not helping, you know, and all of that stuff, and that's exactly what the word of the day was and what conservatism is. At this point, it's about trying to maintain that fake ass small government ideology after we just came out of a year where we saw all of the problems of small government.
Yep.
Small government and a virus hit, can't do shit. Small government and a virus hit, vaccine done, can't get the shit out. Small government and troubles arise. I mean, at some point, we got to get rid of this idea that, a small government is better when you are trying to govern a country full of unruly motherfuckers who can't even agree if the K word from the last segment is something that should be said in polite company. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
but to me, like, I don't see how, like, some people are saying that it's about poor people staying poor. And Tiffany Meeks is in the chat saying that. A lot of people are saying that. And I understand that it is, a lot of times it is about that. But there are like tertiary, like bullshit, like superficial things you can do to keep niggas happy, right? Like, I remember when George W. Bush, around election time, I remember he just gave everybody $1,000. I don't know if y'all remember that shit. It was like $600 to $1,000. He just sent out checks because he had a budget surplus. And he won the vote. Like, that $1,400 ain't gonna lift nobody out of poverty. No, you know what I'm saying? I love how LLC Twitter's like, why don't y'all buy an LLC with that 14? You ain't nobody doing shit but paying some extra bills of $1,400. And plus, when you give $1,400 to broke people, you know what they do? They buy shit and put that money right back into the economy.
Here's the issue, that because we're not talking about the right thing. They're not worried about you giving $1,400 to broke people. They worried about you giving $1,400 to you and me.
No,
listen. Hold on, let me follow.
They do not care about that either. That is a lot.
Wait a minute. I said this to you before, and you completely brushed it off. You put $1,400 in the hands of me or you. I'll tell you what I did with my last $1,400 and what I plan to do with this one. I bought Tesla stock before it split. That Tesla stock that I bought with my last stimmy basically almost not quite doubled my stimmy, but that bitch. Okay, right? So what I'm saying is they're not worried about giving broke people $1,400. $1,400 while we talking about it ain't shit. It ain't shit if all you talking about is paying bills and paying off credit cards. But $1,400 in the stock market is $1,400 in the stock market. And so if we talking about keeping people poor, what we're really talking about is denying people access to those systems, like what you saw with GameStop. And I'm telling you, I'm not wrong. People in GameStop, they flipped the whole fucking shit up. Yeah, imagine all them motherfuckers with $1,400. Not even all of them. Half of them with $1,400. You underestimating that?
I don't think I really. First of all, we can't get organized enough. You know what I'm saying? And the $1,400.
No, it's not about us organizing.
$1,400 ain't gonna do it. What I really think.
It did it for me.
What for you? But like I'm saying, also didn't.
But how many of me are there?
But it also didn't lift you into the upper echelon of wealth.
Yeah.
It's incremental moves that really.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not about lifting me into upper echelons of wealth. What it's about is now I am accessing and moving in a part of the economy that previous to that $1,400.
But what you are doing in that part of the economy, if you double $1,200, you ain't shake nothing in that part of the economy.
You ain't shake nothing in a year, but if you double $1,200 with compound interest and all the shit niggas is talking about, that's what I'm talking to you about. We're talking about when they say keeping people poor,
it's not
they're talking about denying generate. It can be. It is not significant enough. Oh my gosh, $1,400 is a solid.
What I will tell you, like that earned income tax credit for the child tax credit. Now that is something that when you talk about taking cutting child poverty by 45%,
the milestone is $3,000. So you add $1,600 to it, and now you can.
So you talking about a mother with 3 kids having an extra $10,000 a year. That is a difference.
We're talking about two different things. That mother with 3 kids is not who we're talking about. I'm talking about
what I'm trying to tell you,
Parrish Thompson, people who are working jobs, and that's why the Republicans. That's one of the reasons why they didn't want to get it. That's why Biden had to compromise on that, because that is a valid argument that is hard to. I don't want to say it's a valid argument, but that's the argument. They're not worried about giving. They are worried a little bit. They're not worried about giving broke people like who you're describing, a single mother with 3 kids. She's struggling. Yeah, okay. What they are worried about is giving money to people who making $60,000 a year. That $1,400 is going to sit in your bank account, or you're going to take that $1,400. And if you're somebody like me, or somebody like the dudes who was involved in the GameStop shit, you are putting them in a position. $1,400 10 years from now is a solid amount of money. That's what I'm talking about. So it ain't just about keeping people poor from now until next month. It's about denying what many people think they need to try to do something else with your mother other than just put it in a bank account. And I don't understand why that's so hard to understand. Why would that be?
To me,
we talking about people who tear down governments, and this is too
nigga, you're literally talking about chump change. Chump change. Like, it is chump. Now, for me and you, it is not.
Look how elitist you sound.
No. I'm not talking about
$1,400 in it.
I'm talking about in the overall scheme of things. This shit ain't nothing. What I will agree with you on, that there's an ideology that if you start showing what happens when you give people stimulus checks, when you increase tax credits for children, and you start putting money in the pockets of the poor and the middle class, what happens is you start setting a precedent, and people start understanding that if you do subsidize the poor and the middle class, they can over time reach a certain level. And that's what I think the Republicans are so scared of, because
you're saying something like I'm saying. Except I'm not saying it's going to no family that's going to over time of getting, you know what I'm saying, subsidized shit, they're gonna turn into something. What I'm saying is people who are in the middle, the solid middle who is really the bottom. When you give them people, you're not. It's not just about it's chump change. That fucking Reddit shit with GameStop almost tore the market up with what? Little tiny chump change. You're putting $1,400 into the hands of people who are living in that world. That has to be part of the calculation. And to deny that, like it's just about yada yada yada. You playing
but see, here's what I'm arguing with you on is the reasoning behind why the Republicans are doing it. Like I think their political calculus is off. Because we're not talking about changing the system. Well, we're not talking about a system of a universal basic income, which is almost like what this is kind of giving you the precursors of when the country is struggling. You make sure to prop your people up and make sure that people don't fall into poverty. We're not talking about that. They could have hit you with, they could have just got on board with these one-time checks, because I don't believe that the Democrats are out here to lift people out of perpetual poverty. No, I think they out here making a political decision that if we break you niggas off with $1,400 or $2,000, that you are going to be, you're going to vote for us in 2 years. I think the Republicans are making a gross miscalculation, and I think it's I do agree with you earlier is about keeping that ideology intact, that no, you pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, even though we understand like the white majority has never had to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. They have generational wealth, and that has never been ripped away from them like it has been to us in Tulsa and all these other places. So what I'm saying is that these $1,400 checks, the minimum wage increases, none of that is going to shake up the system in a way that I think that you think it will. And I think the Republicans made because if it was going to do that, the Democrats would have voted for it. I think the Republicans made a gross miscalculation.
This is what I'm saying. They definitely made a gross miscalculation. I agree with you on that. Democrats are definitely looking for a short-term political win by giving people bread. I agree with that. But I'm telling you from this is the experience with that. When them stim checks hit last year, the circles that I was moving in, and then the people that I know was moving in, people were taking that money, and it was not going to pay bills. It was not. People were taking that money and saying, "Look, I'm still getting my regular paycheck." I know literally hundreds of people who were saying, "Let me see what I can get. I know 3 people right now who put their stim checks together and went and bought a barbershop. I know like 2 people who put their stim checks together and went and bought a damn truck to be the operators of, to have another dude drive it up and down so they can be truckers and shit." This is what I'm talking about. You to look at it on any other level but that is to not really see the big picture, because when you're putting extra money in people's hands, it is all of that you said. It is about setting the precedent. It is against the ideology. It is about all of that. But what it also is you're giving people that last little thing they needed to say, "Oh shit, I'm gonna do this." Okay. Oh, damn, I got $1,400.
I feel what Al's saying though, because $1,400 ain't, you know, like three people put $1,400 together and bought a barbershop. That's cool, but it doesn't. They still got to run it, you know. I mean, they still got to maintain it.
What are y'all talking about? Y'all are talking
I get
over
what
this as
you're
if it's
saying.
just like, oh
no,
yeah, some niggas bought a barbershop.
Good,
as if that is not like.
But
no,
listen,
so,
I'm
so
not.
multiply
It's not.
that. We're in the United States of America. If that's
that
happening
money
here, imagine how many other places that is
Chris,
happening.
I think it's all beautiful. What I'm trying to say is I love the fact that people are doing that. But I feel like if you think that's changing some kind of social paradigm, you're way off.
I'm not talking at all about changing a social paradigm.
That's what I'm saying. My whole thing is I don't understand why Republicans. This is my whole thing. I am happy that certain people are flipping them stim checks and doing different things. But I'm going to tell you right now that is not going to solve the greater issues. Stim
Ain't
checks
nobody
here,
talking
stim
about
checks
solving
there.
the greater issues. What I'm talking about is
what I'm saying is that I don't understand why Republicans would be against that. But I don't understand it. But when we talk about ideology, I do understand on that side of it why they don't want to. They think they're setting the precedent. You understand what I'm saying? Like they believe that whole give a man a fish, teach a man to fish shit.
They don't really believe that, but yeah.
But if you don't give a nigga a fishing rod, it don't fucking matter. That's what
I see. I believe what Chris is saying. Like they're looking at, they just don't want to share the money. You know, like it all.
That's what
like,
I'm talking about.
They don't want to give us $1,400 because they want the $1,400. They don't give a damn what we do with it. Like you can buy your barbershop, you can buy your hair, you can buy your truck, but that's less money in my pocket. It's the same reason why CEOs of companies don't want to pay $15 to regular employees, because that means that's less than their bonus. Their bonus isn't $1 billion; it's only $1 million instead of $1 billion because they had to pay all the employees, you know, $15 million. It comes down to just greed. You know what I'm saying? Just good old natural greed. And they don't give a fuck what we do with the money. The fact that they ain't going to them is the point.
What we do with.
I don't think they do. I just think what I agree with Chris is that they don't want to set that precedent, because what needs to change.
But all they got to do is stop. It's not a precedent.
But that's honestly, the thing is, but that's what the Democrats are doing.
The fact that they're gonna give us a third round of stimulus, I'm completely shocked. I'm like,
really?
But
this is what I'm saying.
Really?
What the Democrats are doing is they're gonna give you that shit and just stop.
Right. Exactly.
You heard what Nancy Pelosi said? Well, if things start coming back around and the vaccines start to work, hopefully we won't have to do another stimulus. They will never give you another fucking dime again. Well, no. That's what I just understand. That's what I'm saying. The political calculus didn't make sense to me, and I think we saw by the last election that they gambled, and they gambled wrong, because they've been trying for so long to build up this idea of welfare queens and the social safety net and welfare and food stamps.
And COVID tore all that down because everybody's a welfare.
Yeah, exactly. We all was like, oh, nigga, we need checks, every last one of us, and you couldn't pit. And that's why you look at the $1.9 trillion stimulus. When they put it out there for a vote, 57% of Republicans have to grit their teeth and say, yes, we need this shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's a 70% approval rate around the country. And I think what they are afraid of is setting that precedent that you need to get people out of a rut, you need to boost them up. That's the government's job. And they don't ever want that to be government's job, because then they can't give tax cuts to the wealthy. They can't bail out big businesses and big banks, because if you do that,
it's just less money. Like,
that's the problem. Paris, you need their money. You need to tax the rich to give that money to give stimulus checks out.
After I heard Vince McMahon got a PPP loan, I was like, I'm hitting every government fucking thing I can possibly get now, because like everything it's crazy. Floyd Mayweather got a PPP loan.
That's just crazy. Got a PPP loan.
It's like,
listen, man, I'm telling you what they don't want, and this Chris started it off with the ideology, and that's what me and him were on the same page. They do not want that ideology of like the government should help people out. Yeah. They do not want you thinking that, because once that shit is in your mind, I feel like what's that R. Kelly thing? Once that shit is in your mind, and you're like, damn, when I'm in trouble, the government should probably send me a check. Man, it's downhill from there. We socialism soon come. That's what they worried about.
So that's our stem check conversation. That went way longer than it was planned to.
We're gonna finish it off with a lighthearted tip.
We're gonna finish
it off. Discovered that I may have a son here in this land. How much child support is she getting from? The king pays no child support.
No child support for 30 years and you came back? You was a dummy.
Bro, I watched the movie. I enjoyed the movie. And I think part of the reason why I chose the word of the day, right? This fear of change. People who I know who did not like the movie, they were looking at it for all the wrong reasons. Coming to America, the sequel, is so much good nostalgia that I'm willing to overlook any of the flaws in the quality of it.
Yep.
It was fantastic to see all of those characters again. It was even more fantastic because this is the last time you're gonna see them. That this was it. You could see the differences in the budget and all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but aside from all of that, it was great to see. It was great to see those characters, man. That's what my bottom line was. I really enjoyed it. I laughed out loud watching it a couple times. I think it was a great movie, and I know a lot of the conversation has been about, oh, it was whack, oh, it was this, oh, it was that. And to me, I think those people are missing the point, man. So if you have not seen Coming to America 2, check it out. And at the very least, too, this is the other part. I'm going to let you go out. I be trying to, I just be supporting shit because it's black, too. Like it's what they say. You know what I'm saying? So I was going to watch it regardless. I also did enjoy it watching it. Go ahead.
What I will say is it as good as the first one? No, motherfucker.
No.
The first one was a classic. Like
super classic.
Like we gotta stop this shit where we build this shit up in our heads so fucking hard and then we get disappointed. It was an Amazon Prime movie. All right. We have to go. Can we go back to the days?
It was almost exclusively shot in one location.
And it was like when I heard they shot it in 3 weeks, I was like, expectation level here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I knew what I was gonna get. And my thing is like, what I enjoyed about the movie, like you said, is for nostalgic purposes. Like you getting to see where they're at now, and like there was a lot of funny lines, but also Coming to America, the first one was great, one of the greatest comedies of all time. But also, let's please stop acting like it was Shakespeare, okay? Because a lot of people were upset about some of the coonery and some of the other things about it, and I'm just like, guys, like they was cooning in that first one. But it was the 80s and you didn't really care. Now you more socially woke.
What are people calling coonery? What was coonery?
I
think who do y'all hang with, man? Y'all know people that dislike the movie that much? Like,
no, I mean, oh
I'm
my God, that shit been getting killed.
Yeah,
that shit been getting, and I don't get. I'm like, what did you expect? Was it a fucking? You know what? You know what it reminds me of? It's how people are mad about this new Space Jam, right?
Yeah.
And I literally saw someone like, oh my God, they're gonna ruin my childhood.
Fear of change.
What was wrong with your childhood then?
Because and to tell you the truth, I've seen Space Jam maybe 2 times in my life.
I've never even seen it. I
saw Space Jam once. It's like you don't watch Space Jam again after you
don't watch Space Jam again. Why is it you ruining your childhood? Like,
but people gatekeep shit like this, and I feel like they're gatekeeping Coming to America. And listen, it's almost like back in the day, getting a TV movie that's a sequel to a big market movie, and it's just it's nostalgia purposes. It's funny, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like when you look at like Friday and then next Friday and Friday after next. They progressively got worse in their production values. Like you went from F. Gary Gray to like I don't know who did them other two, and like the first one's a classic, and the other ones you just start building off of old gags over and over again.
Eddie Murphy was barely trying in it. Granted. Arsenio Hall was barely trying in it, granted. I thought the new kid who played his son did a great job. I thought that kid had good energy. I thought he was like, hey,
I will say one thing, you're using the word great a lot. And I
did a great job.
I would just caution you there. He did a good job. But you say great. You say great.
Let me big my man up. He did a great job. I liked him a lot. He carried the movie to me. Like the movie wasn't really like an Eddie Murphy movie. Like it was really about his little journey. I thought he did a good job of that. I love seeing the beatboxing twins.
There was so much. Yes, Louis Anderson came back.
Louis Anderson.
About the behind what happened after that club night.
Yeah,
like that whole little vignette right there. I was like, man, this shit is straight, dog. Like,
you could tell they rushed the writing of it, but they did think about it. Like they tied it together pretty good. I thought.
I thought so too. I thought. I mean, I wish sometimes people would give a pat, but that's what I'm talking about with the word of the day. Like this fear of change. Like, don't change it. That's the way it is. That's the way. you know, that's where it's always been, blah, 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 blah. Even Eddie Murphy didn't say that. They make a joke in the movie about why people don't like sequels. You know what I mean? Like, it's never really, and they didn't want to do it for years because it was like, nigga, we made a classic. Who goes back and, but I ain't mad at it.
We still making Godzilla movies. Like, goddamn. Like
Godzilla and King Kong.
And King Kong. Jesus
and
Christ.
Pretty soon Mothra. And then, you know.
Now, Mothra was in that last one, wasn't it?
Yeah, one of them. I don't even know all the big dumb monsters. You know what I'm saying? I never liked none of that shit.
But people be getting mad. Like, people get mad when you touch something from their childhood, boy. I'm like, you know, that nostalgia's there for a reason. Just enjoy new shit and let other people enjoy new shit.
Straight
you know,
up.
I feel like that. I do that shit with hip hop all the time. Like, this nigga ain't no biggie.
Listen to
I don't listen to nothing after 1998. Fuck them kids.
Damn. That sounds like a good enough place to exit as any. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank y'all for riding with us. It's been an interesting night, man. We had some good conversations here. If you do not know, you can follow all of us. You see our tags there. I'm Christopher Maddox, at Maddox Media on IG. My boy Alf, you see the new merch.
Where they get that merch from, Alf? Where they get that merch from?
You go to that shop.miamiheatbeat.com. You will find all the LSO gear. You will find
your shirt, dog, because you've been hiding behind the mic a little bit. Alf got it actually on. You see what I'm saying?
You know, I usually try to dress up for the LSO, you know, the LSO show. But I'll have a t-shirt.
Y'all hit us up on social medias. Tell us what you think about the show. Tell us what you thought about the episode. Like, share, comment it. You know what I'm saying?
Subscribe
That's right. Use your stimmy to buy the merch. Put us on.
Hey.
Subscribe to that YouTube channel, man. We get more views than subscribers. Y'all just watching the shit and not even subscribing to a nigga shit. That's fucked up.
You know, we trying to flip these algorithms, man. This the modern world. We're trying to flip these algies.
Also, my fiance is in the chat. Thank you for everybody who shouted me out and the congratulations on my engagement. Love you, Shanoa.
Oh, corny ass nigga.
Corny ass.
Hey.
With them old sandy ass knees, nigga. That sand is embedded in them jeans, guys.
That's how love survives, baby.
That